When you see it, yeah.
Now, I'm delighted to be here in this magnificent, beautiful architectural building, the chapel in Mungret College. And I'm just looking around me here, and if you can see the backdrop where Fionnan and Willie and Billy Maguire is sitting, just take a look at the stonework and the original woodwork. It is just absolutely incredible. It has actually an atmosphere unto itself. Now, Mungret College, I just saw a video piece there which we'll attach to a little later on, but it just showed the history of Mungret College going back to the 1800s right up to its vacation in 1974. And the great people that came from here, notably one man that stands out in our history and our connection is Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty. I was watching a film the other day with Gregory Peck, who played Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, the Scarlet from the Vatican. And this man was responsible for saving thousands of lives who would have ended up in the gas chambers of the Nazis in Germany during that time. Let me go now to Billy Maguire first as well. Billy,
I'm very lucky. As a child, I knew Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, and he was a great friend of my family. So we were talking about Mungret.
Yes.
And he was in the Second World War in the 40s. The diplomatic corps in the Vatican, the savagery and brutality that was going on in that war, and the prisoners of war they were treated. We have no idea. We will never know the savagery that they were treated with. And the Vatican were all up in a heap. They couldn't agree with one another. And Monsignor O'Flaherty, he was an IRB man. And he negotiated with the Sovereign Republic of Eire in Vaughan's Hotel, 29 Parnell Square in Granbury Road in Dublin. And all the members of the diplomatic corps, that's where our sovereign Dáil Éireann government was. They accepted that, and as you said, they saved thousands of lives. All that, and the ambassador was T.J. Kiernan, and Delia Murphy. He was married to Delia Murphy, and they literally said, and there was huge goodwill at that stage.
Yes.
And for Irish people and that. And, you know, because we were a neutral country at the time, and that's how we were accepted that we could do that. But anyway, to make a long story short, our Free State government, that's in Rome. But the sovereign Dáil Éireann government, by the will and wish of all the people of the 32 counties, the 1918 32 county election established that. It was called on the 14th of December 1918. On the 28th of December 1918, IRB Sinn Féin won 73 seats out of the 105. The Unionist people won 25 seats, and there was independent as well. And that was the 28th of December. Then on the 21st of January 1919, that length time is what happened during the war. Things were, you know, you couldn't, it wasn't like today, you would have it tomorrow.
Yes.
The Supreme Council met in Dublin in the Mansion House and in Vaughan's Hotel, and the Sovereign Dáil Éireann government ratified the 1918 32 grant. That's the democratic election that we have, and that was ratified on the 21st of January in the Mansion House, in the round room and in the cabinet room. The cabinet room was the dining room, and also the drawing room there was known as the Blue Room. That was also used, and in Vaughan's Hotel, 29 Parnell Square in Granbury Road. And after that, in 1950, you know, and I showed, there's our offices in Limerick. Maguire's come from Fermanagh, Lougher and the River Shannon to the estuary of Limerick.
Yes.
And that's Arthur's Quay. And that's Corrigar Falls. So we would come the whole way down the Shannon to Limerick. That's why my family is still in Limerick. And Cuconnet Maguire was the last of my family. We're a seafaring family. So we would have been the business agents to the Spanish Empire. and we would have traded all over the world in America. And if you go to London, go to Maguire Street and Maguire's Wharf, it's down near Tower Bridge, and we would have dealt with the Roman Empire there, we would have dealt with the Vikings there. It's still there, it's still the street there. And we're salt. We'd probably be the oldest salt merchants on record. And we got that from the old monks, which I'm always talking about. That's what they would have done. You know, how to preserve food in the wintertime, how to breed animals and how to breed crops and things. They were the universities of the time. And that's what's important. But that's Limerick anyway for you.
Absolutely
and
amazing.
But those people came down to my father's office in Limerick, thanking him and for saving their grandfathers and their fathers' lives. I mean, it was really, we have no idea the savagery. And Pope Pius XII, Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, he was running the Vatican at the time. He was the power man. And he wanted, the Pope did not want any violence against Britain. And all that goodwill, I mean, all these people, I could name an awful lot of the top people in Britain, that one of their ancestors was a prisoner of war. And they wanted a peace, reconciliation and prosperity process. And that's what Pope Pius XII wanted. And he wanted it through a university. And I would have known, that's Willowbank, where we lived. And
a magnificent structure. Magnificent building.
Beautiful gardens, and you would grow all the vegetables, and it was about 45 acres, so it had its own land and everything with it.
Yes, lovely.
So they used to come there, Monsignor O'Flaherty and TJ Kieran.
To Willowbank.
To
Willowbank, yes.
And in 1950 then, Pope Pius XII, you'd have Canon Cooper, Dr. Cooper, he was the parish priest of St. Patrick's and Monaleen. And Eamon Casey was the curers, and Father Petty O'Regan, he was the other curers in St. Patrick's and Monaleen. And all these people, all the IRB, you'd have 100 IRB people at least there at Christmas time.
My God, incredible.
Know. And Pope Pius XII, anyway, in 1950, he wanted us as a university. And it brought my father and mother out to Rome. And my father gave Willowbank for that purpose, for the university. And what happened then was that Pope Pius XIII, he sent the papal nuncio to St. Patrick's Church. And I was anointed. I was only 7 at the time. But I was anointed as the sovereign. And sovereignty, you go into another country. Sovereignty means you go into that country, you respect the country's sovereignty, and you respect the people's that are sovereign, and you respect the assets of the people. Now, Henry VIII didn't do that. He was expanding his empire. Now, I know there was corruption in the church and that in Britain, as there was probably all over the world. But he was never a Protestant. But it was more to do, this thing about Catholic and Protestant, is more to do about a corporation. To expand his empire, he turned the monarchy into a corporation. And that's what we have today. And we said about the 1918 32 county election, and we said that on the 6th of the Supreme Council and Dáil Éireann, they ratified that on the 21st of January. On the 6th of December 1921, and then King George V and the British government, they declared after it was set up on the 21st of January by the will and wish of all the people of the 32 counties, declared Dáil Éireann to be an illegal assembly. And he sent over the Cairo gang to execute and annihilate the sovereign Dáil Éireann government, all members of the judiciary, the Garda Síochána, who were founded on the 21st of January, and the Defence Forces, and all members of the IRB. That's how Michael Collins was executed. But we had all that knowledge and information because Sam Maguire, he was the intelligence officer of the IRB.
Yes.
And he was Church of Ireland, and he got into the post office in London. And all the information on the Crown Forces and on the Royal Navy came to his desk in the post office.
What a position.
So every Saturday he brought all that to Vaughan's Hotel. So the Supreme Council would have had all that. Now, I would have known what you mentioned here, Tom Barry.
Tom Barry,
and,
yes.
And all those people.
Tom Barry, Billy, Tom Barry was one of the IRB in the 20s, wasn't he? He was guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, and he would have been, and his wife,
His wife.
Barrish, they were Bulmer Hobson, Joe McGrath, all these people, they were all coming to Willowbank, and that's what happened. When Pope Pius he set up this, for peace reconciliation, and Chuck Feeney put up the money for it, and as you know, the university gutted it. And the reason it was set up was because of Vaughan's Hotel.
Yes.
And all that Monsignor O'Flaherty had done with the IRB. And this is where the IRB was sitting. And when the papal nuncio came over, I mean, there was a huge crowd of people at St. Patrick's Church, both outside and inside. It just couldn't take the volume of people. And that's when I was anointed as the sovereign. But it's very important that we know the facts, and we know today there is no peace reconciliation. And
correct.
What happened to all Chuck Feeney's money? He put up all that money for the peace reconciliation. Now, as I said,
it's a piece of string.
IRB Sinn Féin won 73 seats. That's the mandate we have, a democratically elected. The democratically elected unionist people today, they're claiming that they have a right to the 6 counties because they got 25 seats out of the 105. That is not, if that's a democracy, it means that every democracy and every government in the world that's a democracy, by the will and wish of their people, is wrong and is illegal.
Well, we're seeing it even today, across parts of Africa and Europe.
Is that 1918 32 county election.
Yes.
Now, we said the peace process was all about that, because I was involved in that.
Yes.
And when the Queen, she came to Dublin, she was to announce that they had, the Queen, and her government had recognised that sovereign Dáil government by the will and wish of all the people of the 14th of December, and the 21st of January 19. But she never did it, and then the conflict is still going on. In the morning, if the Queen stood up and said that her government, we recognise the 1918 32 county election, that's the end of the conflict with Ireland.
Yes.
With Britain, and we can never go back to Britain because we believe in God and we're a Christian people. Britain doesn't have sovereignty, and you're going to read out a letter from General de Gaulle. He wouldn't allow Britain into the common market because they don't have sovereignty. It's royalty they have. And they have that since Henry VIII expanding his empire.
That is the difference,
and went
right.
into all these Commonwealth countries, and they robbed and plundered all the assets of the state for themselves to expand their empire. And that's what they did.
I'll tell you something. You should be in Dáil, Aaron. You should be Taoiseach and Tánaiste, because I'll tell you something. We need to understand this, believe it, and work on it as Irish men, women, and the younger generation as well. We have to. Sovereignty, not corporation, where it's like a mad, man-made run to have a large house, a large car, a large bank account, and people's prestige is built on that, and we're forgetting about the essence of it. Back to sovereignty.
This is what we're doing.
Yes.
I mean, it's nothing for a corporation to go in and destroy a whole
They've
land,
done it, sure.
build
In
houses,
South America.
sell them,
Absolutely.
a whole forestry, all the habitat of birds. There's no birds left. No. There's no wild animals left. There's no fish.
No fish. And the fish we're eating are poisoned.
And that's what we're doing. And people think that the world can go on like this. You mentioned about the Bible. It's already happened in the Bible. And now it's happening again by us. And we're allowing it to happen. We won't stand up.
Well, the one thing I will say, Billy, just to conclude part one, is this. I have tremendous faith in our younger generation. They have woken up. They're not led and said by corporates or news or big balance accounts or anything. They are so switched on now to saving the planet and climate change. We're in good hands.
But they have to, John, because
they
if they don't, it won't be there.
Well, it won't be there.
Ask William about you want to say...
Okay, I'm just going we'll just come back. We'll just conclude part one, and I'll come right back with you.